Hello and welcome back, guys, girls, everyone. We have a bit of a Frankenstein of a list here. What you see on screen is a mixture between the Karn Amulet list that I played last week on the channel and the Flippin' Amulet list that I've been kind of brewing together ever since the new Zendikar set came out and gave us these blessed land/spell cards that kind of have a dual purpose of increasing your land count artificially, but also allowing you additional things to do with your mana. And in this case, the only flip card that we are including in this list is Bala Recovery. We're playing 3 copies of that one, and it's a 3-mana sorcery to return a card from your graveyard to your hand, and on the backside it's just an ETB tapped green land. And this is the one I've been most impressed with. I can't really say that I would call it Flippin' Amulet anymore, because the original Flippin' Amulet list had 4 recoveries, 4 Florahedrons, and 4 Mammoths, all as flip cards, and now we're kind of just playing them incidentally in our otherwise normal Amulet list. So it might be a little disingenuous to call this deck Flippin' Amulet. In fact, depending on how I choose to go with the naming scheme, you'll know by now because you'll have seen the title of the video, but this might just be called a Karn Amulet list. This might be called a Karn Flippin' Amulet for the time being, since it is related to the last one, but at the very least, this will be the last time I call a amulet list with Bala Recovery a Flippin' Amulet list. If you do see that naming convention for this video, get used to this being the last time that you will see it. Anyways, so like I said before, we are also playing our Karn the Great Creator tech here, the Planeswalker himself. Along with the Karns, we have a newcomer to the Karn board, and that card is Pithing Needle, the 1-mana artifact that'll allow you to choose a card name, and activate abilities of sources with the chosen name can't be activated unless they are mana abilities. So this will come into use against Goblin Charbelcher, for example, against opposing Planeswalkers, Liliana the Veil, for example, Jaces or Teferis if we want to deactivate those, and also even the Devoted Druid combo, because the Pithing Needle will shut down the put a minus counter to untap ability on the Druid and prevent the comboing off in that manner. Could name Walking Ballista against the Scales Heliod Ballista type combo. It's definitely a very broad usage. You can name Lightning Storm even against Ad Nauseam, but of course, if they're playing one of the newer lists with the Thassa's Oracle, then they have alternate win conditions anyway, so could be useful against Ad Nauseam depending on the list, but I would say most likely that's not going to be a factor, but regardless, otherwise we're playing all the same cards that we were playing before with Karn. We have just the 1 Engineered Explosives, my bad. We have an Engineered Explosives in the sideboard here. We have a Wormcoil Engine, the Boat, Sky Sovereign. This is one that I happen to be a big fan of and have seen very many Karn lists excluding recently, but I find it to be a very useful card for dealing with a threat on your opponent's board and then subsequently allowing yourself to plus Karn on the Sky Sovereign and start attacking with it. So it's sort of like Wormcoil Engine threat-wise, except in order to turn this one into a creature consistently, you most likely need to keep uptaking Karn on the Sky Sovereign, which I don't necessarily think is the hugest deal, but it could be relevant. We see the Pithing Needle as mentioned before, and the Liquid Metal Coating, of course. You have to play Karn with your coatings, and then a Tormod's Crypt, and that's going to round out the sideboard slots here for Karn. Everything else is pretty standard. We still have the same sideboard cards that I am generally a fan of. There is a possibility that we could include some sort of artifact like Elixir of Immortality, or there may be some sort of artifact, maybe like a Colossus, like Blightsteel Colossus or Darksteel Colossus. I think one of them does it, that shuffles your graveyard into your library that we might be able to use against Mill, for example, but I don't know if that makes sense as an inclusion here. So I'm going to go ahead and forgo that, but that is something I'm thinking about. Let me know in the comments if you think that a singleton copy of Elixir of Immortality is worth it in the sideboard for specifically that matchup. But regardless, I think that that is enough speaking about the main deck. You have heard it here. This is the reason for the choices that are being made, and I will see you guys in the games. We have our match. Maybe we can manage to be on the play. And we are on the play. Nice. This hand is rather interesting. We do get a turn 2 explore here. Turn 1 amulet, turn 2 explore to hopefully find another land. And then that leads to a turn 3 Karn, potentially. We have a pact to get access to a 3-drop or a Titan, depending on what we need for the situation. I think this is a keep. It'll be fantastic if we find a bounce land, and if we are lacking on the bounce land early, then we will have some trouble, but I guess there's an argument to lead on Grazer here in case our opponent is playing something aggressive. We see that they revealed Luris, so that could mean that they're on the black-red Luris deck, the Prowess aggro deck, or they could be on Devoted Druid of some sort. So a little uncertain there as to what we're playing against, but I think in order to play around discard spells more, I'd rather play the Amulet. The Amulet's going to be better against discard spells, and it's going to be better against the Druid combo deck in general, because getting a blocker into play is a lot less relevant, so it looks like this is, in fact, Prowess, so hopefully we can top deck a land here. If we can, then we can put out Grazer and still explore and do everything that we want this upcoming turn. Land. Come on, land. Alright, I will take that. So here's the Grazer. We'll put out the Vesuva as a copy of this green source here. And now we can explore. Another land? Bounce land? Garenbrig. I'll take that. So if we draw any land this upcoming turn, then we have Titan. And if we don't, then we can use Karn to fill the gaps here. So looking pretty good, I must say. Can you remember when Luris was just free cast from your sideboard? Just 3 mana, put Luris into play? That's pretty crazy, right? Now we barely care about Luris since they have to pay 3 mana to put it in their hand in the first place. It's very slow against what we're doing. I have to imagine our opponent takes the Summoner's Pact here. I will say, Sky Sovereign looking pretty good in this matchup. Oh, they take the Karn? Man, if we just top deck a land here, they are gonna get destroyed. Do we want to cash in this Grazer for 3 damage? I feel like we do. Land. Whew, or just a Titan. Okay, well, we're passing it back. Opponent getting a little bit, what's the word? Rewarded for thought seizing away our Karn here. Not the biggest of deals. They have a flip land themselves over here. The black one. Interesting. I guess it's rather free to play. Feels like it kind of overlaps with Luris and its function, at least the card side of it, so. Alright, we got our land. We're in business. Let's, you know, do the thing where we get the Titan in play. Sadly, we can't haste here, but not much we can do about that. I suppose if we got a bounce land and a Dryad, or actually, if we got double bounce land, we could pick up the Hanweir here after, like, Summoner's Pacting for a Dryad. Hold on. I think that's the line that I'm interested in taking here. We'll get a Growth Chamber and a Gruul Turf. Yeah. So what this will allow us to do is we'll have 4 mana, so we can pack 4 and play a Dryad here. Can yield to these Amulet triggers for the time being. We can pack for a Dryad, leaving a red floating, and play it. And then we can play the Hanweir for turn and haste our Titan immediately, and that should be pretty good. We'll pick up the Vesuva as well, so we can copy a Valakut, potentially. Definitely need to leave this red floating, though. And yeah, let's attack with this one. Now the question is what we're getting here. We could get Bajukabog, I guess, to stop them from doing anything with their graveyard. I don't think that's going to be relevant. It's probably going to be Valakut and Field, I should think. That way we get to kill off their Swift Spear and make some chump blockers for this Death Shadow. Actually, we can kill the Death Shadow before it blocks just by pointing the Valakut triggers at the Shadow. Yeah, I definitely like Valakut here. If we get double Valakut, that's 4 triggers. That's just lethal, isn't it? Unless they have a Dismember for our Dryad. Now, let's get Valakut in field. We'll send all the Valakut triggers at the Shadow. Just play as conservatively as possible, I think. No reason to give our opponent a win out of nowhere. We can always yes these bad boys and always yield. Aha! See, our opponent did have the Dismember. And they're dismembering the Titan? Oh, I guess because they get to keep their Shadow in play. Yeah? That's not great for us, but as long as our opponent doesn't have Temur Battle Rage here, then we'll be good. Don't have another land drop, so yeah, we just gotta pass it back. Very glad I played around that Dismember. We could have gotten destroyed here if we got double Valakut, and they just killed our Dryad, and we would had no board state against their Shadow. That would have been pretty awful. We might still die to Battle Rage, but not much that can be done about that, so... Let's just, do we put everything in front of the Shadow? I don't really hate that, in all honesty. If they kill our Dryad, we can still just attack them with the Titan, or attack, get Talari West and a Bounce Land, and transmute for Dryad anyways. Yeah, I think it's fine to block like this. I don't know if this actually protects us from a Temur Battle Rage, but I'll let our opponent figure that out. Had a bit of the coughs recently. They do have the Battle Rage. Let's see if it saves us. Or rather, let's see if the Battle Rage kills us. Oh my goodness, we are at 1. Oh man. Oh boy. Unearth. Cycled. Alright. Wow. I guess you could call that tight play. I feel like I got lucky, but regardless, we want our Dismembers. Don't think we need Cavern that much. I don't know if we want to have explosives in the main or in the side here. Because if we have it in the main, then we can Talari West for our engineered explosives, which seems pretty relevant. But then I guess our Karn doesn't really have anything to get. To be honest, I'm not sure that the majority of these cards in our sideboard for the Karn board matter against them. As weird as that is, I think it might be right to board out the Karns and bring in the Worm Coil and explosives like this. Crypt is not going to be relevant. I mean, they do have Luris, but I'm not really worried about Luris, as I said in Game 1. Sky Sovereign could be good, but it also might not be good enough. Like, minusing for a Sky Sovereign and not being able to kill your opponent's Shadow is pretty embarrassing. And the coding lock is way too slow, I think. So I think siding out Karn makes sense here. And then we can also board out, I think, maybe one Summer's Pact, since we have recoveries to get them back. I don't know, I'm not sold on it, but let's try it. And then the Cavern here. Are there any other changes we'd want to make? I don't think so. I think this is fine. Just run it this way. Opponent definitely got punished for taking our Karn there. This hand is amazing if we draw a bounce land. Otherwise, I'm not so sure how good it is. I'm really tempted to try this. If we draw any enters the battlefield tapped green land, then we can also play Amulet into that and then explore. On turn 2, that is. I might be wrong, but I'm gonna try this. I'm just a little too greedy. Opponent mulligans to 6. Turn 1, red 1-drop. Oh, Bomat Courier. That's a curious one. Don't see that one a whole lot. Well, we have a Dismember to start clearing up the things that our opponent puts into play, so there's that. Let's go ahead and run out an Amulet here, since we have no other option, really. Could try to hold up Dismember, but I'm not worried about this Bomat just yet. I'd rather save the Dismember for a Soulscar Mage, perhaps, or a Shadow, if we can manage that. All right, come on, deck. Bounce land off the top. Let's just see the bounce land. Bolt us. All right, a bit of an aggro draw here. Regular land is not the worst. Yeah, I guess we're doing that and casting Explore. Ooh, Recovery actually works as a land here. So let's play it out. And now we have the option of holding up Dismember, or we could play a second Amulet. The only thing that the second Amulet helps with is a bounce land, since a regular land is not going to allow us to cast Wormcoil next turn anyways, even if we have this Amulet in play. And if we do draw a bounce land, we can always just lead Amulet into bounce land and still be able to just immediately cast Wormcoil or cast a couple 3-drops into Wormcoil, so I'm rather inclined to hold up Dismember here, so a Spear. I'm not super scared of that one, actually. We're getting to the point where I think we might want to deny our opponent the cards from the Bomat. A little unclear, though. If they bolt us, we'll go down to 10 and take 4. And that'll put us at 6. I think we probably have to do this anyways, though. It really sucks, but oh, they just let it go, too, huh? And they didn't have a spell to cast into these Swift Spears either, so I guess it's working out for us. Let's get a bounce land off the top. Come on. Bounce land. Scourge. Okay, well, we did find the bounce land, but the Scourge is looking rather problematic, I must say. Here's the Amulet. Here's bounce land numero 1. It's going to be the same bounce land repeatedly, but that's fine. We can call it bounce land number 1 here. No big deal. So here's a Azusa, I suppose. Bounce land yet again. Here's a Dryad. Bounce land yet again. I think we do need to keep the bounce land in hand here in case we happen to top deck a Titan, so Wormcoil, pass it back. This is an odd spot, because we don't really want to attack into our opponent and make their Scourge better by virtue of bringing their life total down. But they also don't want to attack into the Wormcoil with their Scourge and end up trading with it, since it does have Death Touch, so interesting. We could pick up our Bala again and go for an Explore here. I don't know if that's really necessary. We at least are playing out this Valakut for sure. If we do that, we lose access to our bounce land. If we draw another land, then we can start using Valakut to ping things down. So I'm just going to wait a turn. Especially if our opponent's drawing lands, I think we'll be fine here. If we were at a little bit of a lower life total, then I might be more concerned about trying to get this Explorer out there and draw something immediately, but well, we got rewarded because here's a recovery to allow us to get back and explore here. So let's go ahead and expend one of these. I guess we could actually play the recovery as a land now I'm thinking about it. Let's see, we still have 3 more land drops, so we can play recovery and then 2 land drops and do 6 damage. That's interesting. We can attack with our Worm Coil, and I imagine our opponent either has to block with the Swift Spear or do nothing. Hold on, let me 5, because I don't need these yields to the amulets. I think my plan here is to swing, just pick this Growth Chamber back up and swing into their board with the Worm Coil, and then see what happens from there. Because if they don't block, then they're dead, and if they do block, we shrink their Scourge anyways, so... They don't block. Alright, well then they're dead. So we start by playing this Sanctuary. No need to float the mana. Here's a Growth Chamber to shoot them in the face with a Valakut. I almost missed this line. Oh. Uh-oh. They have a Dismember here. Targeting the Dryad. Okay, well, in that case, we may need to pick up a Bala to get our Dismember here or something like that. We'll see. Because we're going to need Chump Walkers for the Scourge now. So, that makes things a little more complicated. I think we can just go ahead and pick up the Sanctuary. The question is, do we go for an Explorer here to see if we can hit a Titan off the top? Or do we just get back the Dryad and plan to chump block the Scourge with the Azusa? A little unclear. Because they can only have at maximum 1 removal spell, but if they do draw a removal spell, then we'll be taking exactly what's on board right here. So that's 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, which is actually 1 short of lethal. No, it's going to be more than that because they can fetch the Tarn. So we do have to make a second blocker here just in case. And then I guess we'll work from there. I don't know. This way, next turn, any land that we draw is pretty good. And any non-land that we draw is probably pretty good, depending on, of course, what that non-land spell is. So we'll block here, and we'll block here. Not playing around Battle Rage. If they happen to top deck it, then... Alright, well, we ended up winning the match. Alright, that was a little more confusing than I expected it to be in that second game, but we ended up taking it down. The Bala doing some very nice things there, obviously allowing our land drop to both double as a second Dryad in the case that our first one died. I dare say you will not find another card that does anything like that, so seeing the power of Bala recovery coming through here. I'm not saying it's the truth, but I do happen to like the card quite a bit. It's currently my preference to be playing copies of it, so regardless. And also, seeing the power of boarding in the Worm Coil instead of the Karns, our Karn might have just died on that board. I don't know, I'll have to go back and look at the end of the game. But the Worm Coil kind of just took over there, so... Anyways, I will see you guys in the next match. Thank you for watching. If you gained anything from this video, some entertainment, some knowledge, then drop a like, a comment, subscribe if you haven't already, although I know that a lot of you are already subscribed, considering 40% of my watch time is from subscribers. So I appreciate all of you people who are still here, still watching my videos. Hopefully you feel like you get something out of them. I suppose you wouldn't watch them if you didn't. But anyways, if you're not one of the subscribers, go ahead and join the team, and I will see you guys for the next match. This is Red Face Menace, signing off.